The way we define masculinity is Jesus was available, attuned, and fully offered in sacrificial love. And so there's this sense of availability, attunement, which is, it could be a new word for people, and then also fully offered in sacrificial love. And so the availability goes back to this, like the gift of masculinity and femininity, I think, is just the gift of presence, right? When we look upon Jesus, he's living the fullness of his life, fullness of his masculinity interiorly and exteriorly. There's just this gift of being available.
Poco a poco vamos a llegar. Somos peregrinos and you know that's who we are. We make our way. Hey, hey.
Hey, I'm Father Mark Mary.
Hey, everybody, I'm Father Innocent.
Hey, I'm Father PT.
Hey, whoa, he's back.
Hey.
Father Angelus here, y'all. We are the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal.
Father Innocent was attacking my watch.
I think it's similar size.
I mean, it's a little bigger than that one.
Yeah.
It is. It's just kind of nerdy. I just was mentioning.
This is not nerdy.
It's big.
This is a gift from Jacques down in Louisiana.
I just
Thank
think
you
it's
for the
very.
very.
I wasn't attacking
He's
Jock.
a very cool farmer.
I was just also recognizing
veterinarian
that you guys don't wear your
student.
watch on your wrists, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's all wristband stuff.
I did the cameras, get them drinking. You guys just did the whole thing synchronized.
Wow.
So, Father Pierre Toussaint, welcome back.
Thank you, Father Mark Mary.
Where in the world have you been?
Actually, all over the place.
Father PT just shared one of the graces that he prayed for, which apparently Father Innocent has not been praying for.
Wow.
We can touch on that. So, Father PT is, I think we maybe told the listeners,
Did we?
you were gone for a while because of being on a 30-day retreat.
Yes.
That's cool.
I'm just waiting for an invitation here.
So is that like what is that? What do you do?
So I had the opportunity, actually a blessing, to go on a 30-day retreat, and basically you spend 30 days with Jesus. So St. Ignatius has this whole 30-day retreat that he has different meditations that you go through, and it was just a gift to be able to take some time away from the community. Where, Father Innocent, you ask? Where was I?
Where were you? Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
where
were you?
I was in Assisi, Italy, with Father Gabriel Emmanuel.
You spoiled brat.
Yes, it was. And actually, if I could give a word about the retreat itself, it's just the providence of God the Father and how he loves to spoil his children, just be good to us. And so both myself and Father Gabriel had many opportunities to be spoiled by God. And in particular, I think just sitting at the feet of St. Francis was an awesome, awesome gift. But it was totally a gift just to be able to have the opportunity, and noting that, I don't know how many people in the world get to do this, but not that many, to spend 30 days praying with Jesus, going deeper with him. And so I was grateful for the gift from the community. The brother stepped up and just held the house down for me in my absence. And it was just good. It was a good time.
And so now are you a graduate of spiritual direction school?
I have a certificate. I direct the retreats now. After coming back,
Can people sign up?
No, nobody's asked me. Nor is this a pitch for anybody to ask me. Just to be clear, but it's beautiful because like the Lord's leading me deeper into like just different places. And so, but I do have a certificate now. I'm certified spiritual director / retreat leader.
Master.
Are all of you guys?
He is.
Absolutely.
Father Angelus is coming up on it.
I'm
right?
coming up soon. I don't have the certificate. You don't have the credentials yet.
Why not?
Father, because you have to do the 30 day
30-day.
before you get the
Oh, you
certificate.
didn't. When are you doing yours again?
Couple
Soon.
months. But you're doing so much more than a 30 day. I don't know how he got permission. He's going to be away for like 3 months. That's not true. 2 months. It's only 2.
Really?
What else are you doing?
Just some different things.
Okay.
It's a little 10-year sabbatical.
You did as well.
Yeah, I did a 30 day.
No, you didn't.
Nah, but you had a little extra time.
You had
though.
extra
Bro,
time.
like a week. He's taking like 4 extra weeks.
That's not.
Are they all the same place?
No.
Okay.
There's a little travel in here and there.
Okay.
And let's not forget, Father Innocent, you took a sabbatical in like your second year of vows, so like 9 months.
Yeah.
So
I
need-
can't walk.
Oh, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm on here all day.
Wow. I took a 9-month sabbatical. You're like second year of house. Wow, I didn't know you were going to go there. That kind of surprised me.
That's a whole throwback.
It's a big throwback.
That's the type of throwback.
So
I
I'm
get.
going soon, and then I will get
before.
my certificate as well.
Yeah.
Which we all were at school together. It's great.
For those who haven't listened or haven't heard that story yet, And what was your second year of vows? First year of vows.
No,
It was my second or
Second
third.
year.
Or even third.
Oh, that's right, because you're
third.
two.
Yeah.
Father Innocent had a surgery that didn't go well, and so he was paralyzed for and learning to walk for about 9 months.
And you call that my sabbatical.
For your first sabbatical. So anyway, Father,
crazy.
welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it was led by one of the. There's a how old is? I mean, we don't. No, there's a woman named Trudy who's kind of a retreat leader master.
Yeah.
I think who's gone with a lot of our guys. Do you meet with her? Is it like 20, 30 minutes a day?
Yeah. So sorry, you asked about the structure, and I talked about the structure, but basically it's a phone call every day. You pray for about 4 to 5 hours. She gives you scriptures, and she gives you a little teaching on the spiritual life and discernment. And so, yeah. And I don't think she specifically stuck to, like, once again, Ignatius has a program. She didn't stick to that. She was kind of just beautifully led by the Spirit, and let's pray here and let's pray there. And so it's cool. Yeah.
Can we talk about the one thing that
You referenced?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this was, so I'll give it more context. This was the garden of, because you just go through like different scripture passages. And so I think I was praying with, so Adam and Eve in the garden, and they took the fruit of knowledge. And went over in the conversation, we're just talking about how, they wanted to know more than they needed to know. And that was part of the sin of just like curiosity, and just like, that's not their lane to be in. And she goes, Father, that's an important grace to pray for. Pray for the grace to stay in your lane. Thank you. Noted. And I will. And so,
And what I want to just publicly thank you for is you just asked me to pray for that grace as well this morning when I tried to take control of your life.
Get involved in your life. Exactly.
and so I've used that with the brothers now. Hey, bro, just pray for the grace.
Pray for the grace, that
Stay in your
grace,
lane.
which means stay out of my lane. I don't care what lane you're in, just stay out of my lane.
But it was good, and it's been
awesome,
good. So
Yeah.
the people of God have missed you.
I've missed them too. It's actually strange. It's strange, but I was like, I miss being here and being with you guys. And so I
Strange.
didn't think I'd miss it as much as I did. It's good to be back.
Miss what? Being here?
Being amongst you,
Okay.
brothers. I was going to say another word,
appreciate
but you
that.
brothers.
Appreciate that. We this is a celebration of the genius of Father Pierre Toussaint. Not over to the top. We had local servants meetings. We're not going to talk. We'll talk about that more later. But when all the guys who are in charge of friaries are all together with general council, some formators for a little bit, and we had like week of meetings and a couple psychologists and Ken, a lawyer, give us talks. But at one point, one of the psychologists, she took a picture of the whole group, shared it with her friends, and they were like, "Oh, is that?" They recognized me and Father PT from the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and so it's there with all the guys, and they're it's like she brings it up, and so the guys start doing what guys do in that situation.
Make fun of you guys.
Yeah. And so I do what I do, which is like, play it off, like, no, whatever. But then Father, because they wanted us to sign something.
Yeah.
But Father PT is much cooler and smoother. It's like, to the rest of the brothers, you're like, y'all sign stuff for you too. Like, that's the way to play it off.
But
That was the right way to do it.
I didn't get as much of a reaction. Like, just people had looked at me. I think they thought I was serious.
What was funny is that you started signing my you took my piece. I was sitting next to you. You took my piece of paper and autographed it. You're like, here you go. You're such an idiot.
So you got to step
Anyway,
into those things
I
sometimes.
took notes, or I'm taking notes.
Please. I appreciate that.
I'll sign stuff for you.
I'll
too.
sign stuff for you too. Be cool and funny, not whatever I am.
Nerdy, apparently, because of your big watch.
Yeah,
Somebody
dude.
called you that.
Jacques, don't take it personally.
Jacques, don't take it personally. But if he wore this watch on his wrist, it would be nerdy.
This is like
so big, bro.
This is a worker's
It's like
watch.
bigger than your face.
This is a watch.
Oh, can you hold up next to your face? Just for comparison.
This is a man's watch.
Oh,
Seriously.
see, this is what I miss. Just good old brotherhood.
There's some people who listen who don't miss this.
This is the type of watch that the men are gonna get after they go through the Knights of Columbus.
Really?
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I see what you did.
Yeah, I mean,
there.
but not quite yet. Okay, we'll transition. There's another one. One other thing you said that was really funny is something was happening and people were moving fast. It might have been me again. And you're like, yo, where's the fire? That was funny.
Because anyway, that gets me. Does that not bother you? I mean, you guys actually move. All you guys are quick movers.
Yeah.
But just when there's like no reason to run through the fiery or just to like quicken your step. Like, what are we doing here? Like, we just
Everybody just relax.
Just relax. Is right.
because then it gets me anxious and I feel like I'm missing something and somebody's running to something I should be at.
Take a deep breath, bro. You're good.
Where's the fire?
I know.
You're safe here.
But the problem is I'm always the one who needs that. Maybe I'll say it to myself.
Yeah. Stay in your lane and where's the fire? Hopefully it's burning in your little heart
Yeah, I was
right
going to
here.
say right here, folks.
No, how was that staying in your lane?
I just reached over and poked Father Mark Mary in his chest.
Hopefully that's
I'm
where
going
the fire
to need a
is right
moment to
there.
recover. All right. So we are going to get into the episode here. I'm going to try and keep us to, if you will, 1.5 calls to action per episode at the most. Do you guys know what that is? It's
No.
a little CTA.
Call to action, yeah. There's actually
Yeah.
call to actions at the end of every section in the book.
Hey, relax, all right? We're not on to that yet. The first one is this is not a paid advertisement. This is just something I believe in. Seek's coming up. Time to register for Seek 25. Father PT and I will both be at the DC Seek, which is from
And you won't be there?
No, I will not.
January 2nd to 5th. But then we have like 4 or 5 guys going
to Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City. So, and it's not just for students anymore. They're opening it up to everybody. Not that they think they opened it up before, but now it's a little bit more like
Advertise
clear.
like that. Yeah, cool.
So if you want to attend Seek, which has a lot of awesome speakers and just other stuff, it's just a great place. Great event. My favorite, second favorite event of the year after NST, which is also a focus thing. You can go to seek.focus.org and hope to see you there.
Seek.focus.org.
Yeah, you got a problem with that?
I was just trying to look at that in my head and like, huh, okay.
You want to offer some notes on the website to use in the future?
Nope.
Great. Cross that out. Okay, so today we are on day 3, episode 3, not day 3, episode 3 of the Our Lady of Guadalupe consecration. That is kind of following Father Innocent and Father Angelus's. So in the English one, it's just your guys' names on the book, and then the Spanish one is just Father Agostino.
Well, so it's interesting. The Spanish book is actually a translation, and Father Agostino kind of added some of his own stuff, right? So it's all 3 of us on the Spanish,
And then just you 2 on the English.
just us on the English. Yeah.
Got it. And so if it is for guys. The episodes we're doing are not just for guys. What's it called when it's for guys and girls?
Co-ed.
That's not the word. I mean, unisex.
Something like that.
Unisex.
Universal.
Yeah.
I think unisex is the word.
Yeah.
But
Also co-ed works.
like your guys' watches, unisex.
Wow.
So anyway, we are on so this is episode 3, which is going through week 3. And if you want to get the devotional, you can go to kofc.org/sons or /pogo.
Yep.
Great. Kick us off.
All right, guys. So, just Father, thank you for that small introduction. I was just gonna kind of again just make clear again for Father PT particularly because
Thank you.
I'm just kidding. He wasn't here.
But I'll appreciate it.
to our listeners who are walking with us and praying with us, we're just super grateful to invite you on a journey of 40 days. We're kind of a couple weeks in now, but just to consecrate our hearts to Our Lady Guadalupe, and this invitation came. It's kind of been welling up in our own hearts, but just to as kind of a second installment of Born of Fire, right? And we just went so quick through the journey of Born of Fire. And so we had just, or at least me personally, had always had a desire just to go deeper in sonship. Like how does Jesus want to restore our sonship? And so the beautiful idea of just kind of preparing or letting Our Lady restore our sonship on this journey as we prepare to consecrate our hearts to Our Lady of Guadalupe. And again, the journey every day is kind of we have our companions along the way. We have Jesus, Mary, and Saint Juan Diego. And so you have these kind of, every day we're getting some, just invitations from them to go deeper in our sonship, right? And so the first week was just kind of a general restoration of sonship, kind of some themes just to help go deeper in restoration. Last week we talked about the restoration of our prayer, right? And again, which is going to be at the center and the core of obviously restoration, but even the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe. it's just so important that she comes to restore prayer. She comes to restore our union with God, right? And Juan Diego is an incredible example of that, where she invites Juan Diego to build a chapel where her son in the Eucharist can dwell and her Tilma will dwell. And there's just a profound sense of the dwelling place of God, right? So that's how we restore our prayer. And brothers, simply like this week, the title of this week is called "The Restoration of Our Masculinity," and for the sake of our female listeners, the restoration of masculinity and femininity, right? We can't it's just so important to understand that as sons and daughters, we have to understand our hearts, right? There's not like an abstract restoration, right? Like, oh, what does it mean to be a son and a daughter of the Father? This week, we just really want to focus on what does it mean? What does it mean to be a son and a daughter who are just connected to what it means to live masculinity and femininity, right? We're not gonna pretend to take a deep dive into femininity. We'll talk a little bit about it. That's why I wish, the Sisters of Life have a lot of great resources on that. So, but what does it mean, brothers, to live as sons from our masculine hearts, right? In a world that has kind of a broken understanding of masculinity, has this it's been hijacked on what does it mean to not only be a son, but what it means to be a man. The identity crisis is kind of a fuller picture, right? Is like, yes, we don't know what we are. We don't know who we are as sons of the Father. But Father Anselm and I wrote this section because we feel like we don't know what it means to be a man, right? Again, it's been hijacked that instead of living from our masculine hearts after the heart of Jesus, it's been hijacked that it's what it means to be a man is to this misunderstood power and strength, or this misunderstood drive for success, or again, power and even in lust, and like all these different things where we misunderstand what it means to have a heart after the heart of Jesus. And again, we abuse our masculinity. And so what we wanted to do today is just to kind of go through different facets of what it means to have a redeemed masculinity and femininity, and how that participates or kind of aids in the restoration of our sonship. Father Angel, do you have anything to add to that? I'm just going to give the secret that you actually wrote this section in the book. So,
one of the things, and I would love your guys' thoughts about it. I think the challenge is that, there's a lot of formation for young men today in the church of okay, how do we grow in masculinity? How do we heal our brokenness when it comes to our masculinity, sexuality, things like that. And so I love the conversation around that. And so it was a gift to try to help those who will be reading the book to consider. And I think it might be, is this unique? I think we just talk about some different things, which I think is interesting. Might not be in other circles or conversations the same thing. So I think that's interesting. I think it's important though that I think what we're going to recognize throughout what we've been trying to do is just to learn from Jesus, right? And so when we gaze upon Jesus, and we say, I said in the first paragraph here, he was a man because he's looking at his Father, and his Father is revealing the gift of what it means to be father, what it means to be masculine as well. So Jesus' own experience of that is quite powerful. And I guess so that I think that's important that it's rooted in the Lord. It's not abstract cultural ideals of manhood and masculinity, but it's wow, Jesus was the man, but he's the one we want to learn from, right? And I think maybe just to start us off as well, when you think about the challenge that we all work with young guys, and if they kind of bring their brokenness or their struggles with you, there's some common experiences of what maybe dads were like, and no dads are perfect, right? And we all have different challenges and experiences, but I think to start us off, when you were in the presence of Jesus, what was it like to experience his presence? He was there. And I think when often young men, there's a refrain for young men, it's so what was your experience like with your dad? He just wasn't around. Huh. or like he wasn't emotionally present, or he just, and again, sometimes it's like, yeah, he worked a lot, and that's a great value. Obviously dads supporting their families and working a lot, right? Which is really, really good. But I'm just struck, I think initially about like the gift of manhood, the gift of masculinity is just like, Jesus was there. He was present. He was attentive. And I just can't think of like, we can't underestimate that. His gift of being present. So I just kind of throw that out there to begin with. And I think our reflections kind of begin there when dads aren't around anymore, and when men aren't around anymore. They're not present. They're not committed. They have a hard time being involved. They have a hard time seeing what they need to see in their kids and their wives. And yeah, just to be able to begin there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce past you guys in a second, but I want to just reiterate his point that, you know, we did Born of Fire, right? And I think we talked a lot about like external characteristics of masculinity, like doing hard things for the sake of the Lord, strength and courage, and again, in a real presence of like a masculine presence, right? But I like what Father Angelo said, that we're really trying to ask Jesus what the internal experience of masculinity is, like a masculine heart. And that's going to restore us to live our sonship. So I really appreciate you saying that, because we're going to talk about characteristics. And you're going to be like, well, there's so much more to masculinity. Yeah, we know that. But what is the masculine heart like? Not necessarily how you live it out, like kind of like the world says, like in concrete like virtue, because that's all true for sure. But I think what we're trying to get out is how does Jesus want to restore our hearts? And usually like it's a posture through the posture of sonship as a man after the heart of Jesus. And again, Jesus learns that from his own father and from his own experience. So do you guys have any general thoughts before I kind of zoom into like kind of giving some definitions and taking us through some other things?
You go.
I do have some thoughts. What's it's bringing to mind, and I think this is, you know, for our listeners who've been with us for a while, they know we usually talk in the here's my experience. And so obviously all of us are gonna be talking from our experience with like masculinity and all that. But I do think some of the questions can work in for men and women. Because I was just, as you guys are talking and reflecting on it, is just kind of looking back at my own life growing up, and that there was this real experience of being concerned about like what was like masculine, what was manly. And that was like a very big part in decisions I made and things I did and didn't do. It was like, is this what like I do? And it was like a lot of this is this what, like, my last name's Ames, is like, this is what Ames does, but is this what like a guy does as well? And it is interesting to just reflect on all these different factors that I was taking in, that I was trying to like respond to, and that I was trying to like create, if you will, like sort of an image. And I think, right, I think that's actually how it works. I think we are probably educated in it and formed in it. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, our experience with our dads and masculine figures and our relationship with Christ is so important, right? It's because this is where we see modeled like the fullness and the authenticity of it. And so I think that's very much true for probably all of us as we grow up, and for women as well, as they just reflect on their experience with their mother, with maybe their sisters, with their friends, with what they're taking in. It's like, okay, what's what am I supposed to be doing? What's expected of me? And then that wrestling with it, either of pursuing it, or if it doesn't seem to fit, maybe like a pushing away from it. And yeah, so it's interesting. And I think one of the things that before I let Father PT speak if he wants to, is no pressure, it's safe place, is what is uniquely a gift, I think, of you guys, and we see it, right? Because you guys are both in formation of men. You guys are both the people who come to you are often like guys who need some sort of fathering and some sort of care. It's just like what a gift and a unique experience it is for you guys to grow up as triplets, but as like two, you know, as brothers, and have the experience of both sort of like the sports world and all that sort of stuff. But also you guys are just really able to, there's a lot of us grow up with an insecurity about sharing about like what's going on interiorly. It's a non like manly thing. And or like a number of things, and it's just really, yeah, I think it's really like you guys have a facility and a freedom in the interior space where I think I'm still like overcoming some of the formation I received of like what is and what is not things guys do or how they relate, etc.
Thanks, Father Mark.
Thank you. I do have something to say.
Great.
Thank you.
Please welcome.
I think the beautiful thing about all this is that, yeah, as men and as people in general, right, we have the experiences that we have, meaning our earthly fathers or the ways in which we experience fatherhood or didn't experience fatherhood. And so specifically as a man, and even as a woman too, that just informs your life in a particular way. I think it's just beautiful to take a step back and just to look once again at, yeah, but what does Jesus say about this? Or how does he want to, to create just maybe a new image of sonship in my own heart, in my own life, and to heal maybe some of those things that I fall into as far as wounds or past things. And so, which once again, naturally for me, I stopped like at my father or different father figures that I had in my life. And yeah, it's just a good reminder that there's more, right? The Lord desires more for us, and he doesn't desire for us to be stuck in this truncated or this shortened version of manhood or femininity that we're going to look at. And the beautiful thing, it's as we'll talk about too, it's through Our Lady, where it's just through her yes, and just her fidelity that we're able to experience this. And so yeah, it's just a gift, and she's a gift. And yeah, we'll speak more about that. But
Awesome. Hey, Father Andrews, you did write this section, and I just think it's really powerful because, again, the unique take of how we're trying to talk about the restoration of the heart instead of just like actions. And so will you take us through, I mean, you wrote this definition of masculinity that kind of like jumps us off here. Would you just want to say something about that real quick? And then
I think we all said it in some way, but like I think there's a competition, right, for who our eyes are on when it comes to who I want to be like. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like we're drawn to sports stars, or we're drawn to people in the world that inspire us, or that you're like we become role models for us, and which is really, really beautiful. But I think the challenge, and I think the provocation or is an invitation to consider that, like, who do I look at? And who do I want to be like? And if we really want to grow into the young men and women, or all men and women, that God calls us to be, like it's very important to consider, like to make sure that we're looking at the Lord. And so when we look at Jesus, the way we define in this journey, the way we define masculinity is Jesus was available, attuned, and fully offered in sacrificial love. And so there's this sense of availability, attunement, it could be a new word for people, and then also fully offered in sacrificial love. And so the availability goes back to this, like the gift of masculinity and femininity, I think, is just the gift of presence, right? When we look upon Jesus, he's living the fullness of his life, fullness of his masculinity interiorly and exteriorly. There's just this gift of being available, being present. It's kind of like how often have we talked about the show, like Jesus' gaze upon each person he encounters, right? He's not, it's talking about like being running around the friary, right? There's something about the presence of Jesus that allows him to see and to be available to the person right in front of him. And so we were talking the other day, the young guys going at Jesus run. I'm like, yeah, but Jesus never ran, like some guys, people will talk Jesus walk, but like Jesus, like,
what do you mean by that?
Yeah, people don't know what Jesus runs are.
Well, no, and also, what do you mean Jesus didn't run?
Yeah, but the reality of we were joking because I gave a homily recently that Jesus passed by the custom post and saw Matthew. As Jesus kind of passes by, he's not like running around from town to town, but Jesus has the space.
Adult Jesus wasn't running around.
Yeah, adult Jesus. Yeah.
Young Jesus might have ran to play.
Of course he did.
Sorry.
Okay. No.
But he didn't run through the airport or anything like that. Just
but the space, the reality of Jesus being present and available and not overlooking things because he was in a hurry to get his mission done.
I like that.
Right. And so we have Jesus runs where we go on the street, and that's what we call them. But after I gave the homily, we were like, do we need to change that name? But this is the gift of Jesus being available. So I just wonder, like in our own, when you read the gospel next, just like consider that. What was Jesus's presence like? And this is coming forth from his masculine heart, his heart that is really rooted and present and available to what's right in front of him. And I think that's just a powerful thing. Yeah, Brother Father PT.
Yeah. And so all 30 days now, here we go.
Here we go, bro.
So,
come on.
Trudy also mentioned that, and it's beautiful because I found it to be true. Like the more attuned we are to God, the easier it is to be attuned to the person in front of us.
Yeah.
Right. Because we experience then no longer is this person in front of me, the distraction that I got to get out the way so I can do the next thing. Mm-hmm. But like God's always looking at me, and as he's looking at me, I'm able to look at this person in love And just it becomes a sacrament, a moment of encounter with God, which I think is how Jesus experienced also the Father's love, where he's constantly being looked at. He's constantly has access to his heart. And so the things that he does are never, I got to get this done so I can get to the next best thing. It's always the Father's looking at me and I can just look and love this person. We think about any passage where the woman caught in adultery, like, where are your accusers? And he's just looking at her. Or the hemorrhaging woman, he looks down at her and says, daughter, like amidst the crowd of people, it's always the person before him, which is a sacrament and the opportunity, because once again, in his sonship, receiving it from the Father, he's able to experience that the Father he always hears me, and just reflecting on like when he's lost in the temple, right? Because he experiences, I think, from Joseph and Mary too. But when he's left in the temple by himself, like, what actually happens in his heart? Oh, my Father's still looking at me, even though my parents aren't here, which once again could hopefully be restorative for us in times of abandonment, of, my gosh, like, my Father wasn't here, but the Father has looked at you in love in that particular place, to the point where Mary and Joseph come back and they said, we're like, what have you been doing? I was in my Father's house, just like, once again, that security of being known and loved specifically by the Father, because the Father's available to him, but he's even more available, Jesus is, to those around him because of just being built up in that way. So,
and I wanted to know your thoughts, because we use the word attunement. We've been using that word more often, and attunement is basically connection. So I'm available, but then I have this ability to connect and be able to see your heart and to receive your heart. And so I'm just curious, because it's super important. And when we were working with these young guys, is that, like, they feel like someone's not only present to me, but like, wow, he, like, seeing me, he's understanding me, he's being present to me in a very unique way in my heart. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I'm going to jump off of Father PT's. You talked about the hemorrhaging woman, and I was just thinking about the sinful women actually, because there's a lot of women that come in context to break the alabaster jar, but also the woman caught in adultery. Now, it's interesting. I love talking about masculinity in that context, because a woman basically, throws herself at the feet of Jesus and asks for forgiveness, or has this encounter of mercy, and she's been hurt by men. And we would say, like, men that aren't true men, right? That have been taken over by lust, right? And so I just wonder, I think it's a beautiful meditation. I wonder what the masculine heart of Jesus was like for her. And we've been talking about availability. It's like a masculine presence. She felt safe in his presence. And I think that's the restoration. Jesus wants to restore masculinity so we can live in this fullness and availability, where I have, like, a masculine presence that's like, that's safe and like strong, right? So it's just beautiful. Like you said, the hemorrhaging woman, and there's something about, they were attracted to his presence. And I think that's kind of, we're just hinting at something that it's availability, yes, but availability, like Father Angelo said, that's like a presence that is just unique, and that like Jesus had in such a profound way. And that presence turns into attunement. Yeah. And so you call that connection, right? Yeah. So it's not just someone's, like, Jesus is, like, there and like his bodily or his physical presence, but there's something about a connection of the heart. And the reason why we put this in here is because I think there's a misunderstanding about the masculine heart, that's afraid of emotion, that it's afraid to feel, or when Jesus is deeply moved, right? He's moved to the depths. So, like, what is that? Right? But because sometimes men are afraid to feel their emotions, but Jesus' attunement draws us to his heart, that he's actually living from this place, that he's not afraid of his heart. He's not afraid of what he's feeling. He's not afraid of suffering. He's not afraid to give himself in love and sacrifice, which is the next thing. But Jesus is a man of the heart. So he's present, but also he's attuned. And this allows him to be fully connected, right? So instead of running away from emotions or running away from feeling, Jesus allows himself to fully feel and therefore, like, be connected to the person in front of him who's suffering, or to be connected with someone in love and joy. So Father Angelos, you mentioned, like, I think this is so important, because a lot of people, sons and daughters, we just don't have this experience, or we don't typically, well, I just don't want to make a blanket statement. We struggle to have this experience where someone's fully attuned to us. And so maybe our own mothers and fathers, we're like, man, or some sort of masculine figure, we're like, yes, there's so many gifts, but sometimes we feel disconnected. And Jesus wants to come restore that part of our relationship, especially with our own selves or with other people, that we don't have to be afraid of our hearts. And this is what we try to teach the young guys, is that we have to first not be afraid of our hearts. We have to like settle into our hearts and realize that there's so much happening that Jesus wants to restore, because it's the restoration that allows us to live in fullness of relationship, where we don't have to be afraid of love. We don't have to be afraid of our weakness. We don't have to be afraid of how we experience our emotions, because this is kind of what Jesus comes to restore. So yeah, I just think attunement is so important, because it's the connection Jesus shows us.
It just might be a new word for people, so I just wanted to.
I appreciate that.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna drive it in a particular direction.
Okay, just also to and I know we've mentioned this before, but this is tough. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think the expectation is like you read this consecration and you're able to get it. It takes work, and especially just to note like cultural backgrounds and cultural differences. Where I was thinking like in particular for Haitian men, or I'm sure the same things for Latino men. Like machismo is a big thing where the guy's not supposed to be emotional. He's supposed to have his stuff together, go to work, provide, and be the backbone of the family. And so just like you're going to be fighting a lot of things as a guy, even a girl too, man or woman, just like the cultural norms and stuff like that. But just know, once again, I think the Lord desires more for you. You know, like he doesn't want you just to oh, well, that's your lot in life. You're born into this, or whatever it is, you know. But just to know it's tough, but he's with you, and that he desires this change for you to be more attuned in this way. So
what's coming to mind here is just like that reminder and that truth, right? Like what it looks like, perfectly integrated, we're going to find in Jesus and Mary for men and women. And so as we're kind of asking, like, what is this supposed to look like? What am I supposed to look like, if you will? That's where we look. And as we kind of kicked off the episode, you were talking about some of the kind of the false expressions, or it's not that there's something to it that's true, but then it's like an exaggeration of it, of like masculinity, of like what kind of came to mind is like there's something about us that wants to be like a conqueror, to have the power to assert authority. And this is also some of like with promiscuity, some of this stuff, even with
that control.
Yeah, some of like there is something about like the desire to be a conqueror that I think is like in us, that can be, if you will, disordered or properly ordered. And to be honest, I think like with I don't think it's just a masculine thing. I think there's a growing movement within women with some of this as well. It's like there's like a little bit of like this, an expression of I want to achieve, I want to do it, I want to conquer, I want to whatever the thing is. And so I like, and why I'm kind of bringing it up is I think that there is something holy and actually good about, like, if you will, wanting to be victorious, wanting to be strong, wanting to be victor. But again, like, it's going to look like it looked like in the life of Jesus. It's going to look like it looked like Jesus is a conquering king. We know we celebrate Christ the King. He conquered death. He conquered sin, all this sort of stuff. Like, it's a real thing. Our Lady as well, I think, if you will, is she's a queen. She's a conquering, she's a victorious queen, Our Lady of Victories, etc. But we want to like look at their lives like, okay, this desire I have, how do I properly order it? Like, what does it actually look like? Yeah,
I love that, Father Mark, Mary, as far as like holding Jesus and Mary together, and the full expression of giving your life totally to conquer and or to be victorious in your life and your mission. I think what's beautiful is that Jesus is king most perfectly as he gives his life and conquers on the cross. And the third characteristic of what we were saying, like masculine hearts, is sacrificial love. The man who gives himself totally and completely, and Jesus does that, right? He constantly keeps giving himself and pouring himself out. And it's gonna be on the cross when his masculine heart is on display, that this man who was available and attuned to all of us, and he offered himself perfectly back to the Father, and in sacrificial love. Like he gives him the fullness of his life for the ones he loves and for his bride, right? And so again, it's in sacrificial love. And Our Lady's going to do the same thing. And I just want to note, just because I did the research, the Sisters of Life tell us that for the feminine heart.
Say it again.
I'm tired. For the feminine heart, they talk about receptivity, sensitivity, generosity, and maternity. right?
And I think John Paul II uses that in Muleri Tatis,
Yeah.
Dignitatum, whatever.
Man,
Yeah, I was blaming all the
tough
social
words
life.
today.
Yeah.
Gosh.
But so I just want to hold out the fact that like if we talk about the feminine heart, we might use like different characteristics. So that just to know we hold that in reverence. But Our Lady's the one who's going to show us that perfectly. So Our Lady's going to be the queen, and she's going to be the perfect woman who's going to show us how to do that. But also, as we are noting in this journey through the consecration, it's just beautiful to know that as Mary, as mother, wants to help us live our masculinity and femininity. So you're going to notice in the book that these kind of sections we're not going to talk about how Mary lived it. We're going to talk about how Mary was mother helping Jesus live his masculinity. And so that's just also to know that, brothers and sisters, we don't have to like figure this out by ourselves. Our Lady is actually given to us, so she can support us in living this identity, especially to live in the gift of our masculine hearts and our feminine hearts. So I just want to say that, and again, she wants to walk alongside of you. And again, that's the whole point why Father Angela and I reflect on that, because we need help. Like we live in a really confused world. And so Our Lady just wants to come and help us do that. Mm-hmm. So just in that context, I wanted to mention.
And just a quick, just to say it in a different way, I think that like when you talk about Jesus being available and present and then attuned and connected, just using different words, the fruit of that is this offering and sacrificial love. And the fruit of that is really a choice he makes in his masculine heart for those he loves. And so I love the idea that like when we can live in this way in our masculine heart or feminine heart, we make choices for other people. And those choices like become places that really are a response to all the other choices that are usually made against us in life. So when you talk about feeling abandoned, or you talk about feeling rejected, or you talk about being forgotten, or you're talking about a lot of the things that we all can experience in our own lives, when we have people who truly live their identities as sons and daughters of God, but truly like lean in to the gift of their masculine heart and feminine hearts, they're making choices for other people. And I love that, because when people make a choice for me, that does something to me. There's this gift of healing that happens. There's this gift of rediscovering that I'm worthy, and rediscovering that I'm good, and rediscovering that I'm lovable. And that's how we experience redemption. And that's how we experience like a restoration. I'm restored when someone chooses me, because the Father chooses me. Right. And so when Jesus comes to reveal that for us, and then Our Lady helps Jesus do that, but she helps us and she chooses us. There's just beautiful gift of like this something that opens up in my heart to know that like, oh wow, in my life where I've experienced the complete opposite of those things, Jesus, in living the fullness of who he is, reminds me that when I live like that, and when I live from my masculine heart and the gift of my sonship, I can heal other people and I can restore other people, which is just super powerful. And the gift of Our Lady, Saint Juan Diego, this is what Our Lady did for him. And you have this poor man, this kind of like humble man, and he was just a beautiful example of like he didn't really, didn't have like the traditional machismo kind of like
not at all. It was like so poor,
and so poor and little and kind of insignificant. But when Our Lady comes to him, you see the choices that she made for him. You see the way she loved him. And then what happened is it gave him strength and courage to be faithful and to be who he was called to be. So you're like, whoa, when these kinds of, the feminine genius is present, the masculine genius is present, where people see me and are attuned to me and make choices for me, Juan Diego steps up into his vocation, stepped up into what he was called to do. It has an effect. It's fruitful, right? And then he can then live what he's called to live in his own way. So anyway.
Yeah, and I think the attunement, the availability of attunement leads into sacrificial love. And I think it's just a real concrete choice to not run, right? To be present and to stay present. Because I think, like you're talking about, Father Mary, there's good things like to be present, but I think sometimes in the world we just learn like, oh, this is too much and I'm just going to take the easy way out. And Jesus never did that, whether it be the person in front of him, but once again, because he experienced just the Father's always with me to the end. So he could say the same thing for his church, for us, I will be with you always. Right. And so, just maybe in that place where we do have a desire to run from what's hard or run from the person in front of us or the thing that is present, maybe we can invite the Lord there specifically just to be with us as he's always with us, but more so just to help us be directionally focused towards the Father.
Can I share a last thing?
Yeah.
Do I have your permission? I'm like, I like this whole conquering thing. And, because what we're trying to hold in tension, and I think we're doing it, and I think hopefully, I think people who know us and how we live kind of get it, is like, there is a healthy grit, and there's a healthy,
Absolutely.
like calloused handsness to our masculinity. Like there's in that, and we see that in Jesus, right? Like Jesus, was a laborer, and he worked, and he did hard things, and he fasted, and he
Went in the
went
desert,
to the
yeah,
desert where it was cold and all this sort of stuff, right? Like, he maybe couldn't bench 225, but like, he could do hard things, and maybe he wasn't taking ice baths, but he was, in the desert in the cold, like, but it's and I use those little things because there's like a movement, and if you look, like there's this movement towards conquering, like, and in some spaces, in like men's spaces, there's like, I conquer myself. I wake up at a certain time. I take an ice bath. I lift. I fast. I do this stuff. Like, and I think, right, like we are called to be conquerors, but it's conquering sons, right? And so there's the thing, like I'm going to be someone who is victorious, who conquers, but it's like I'm going to do it on my own. And it's a little bit of like the prodigal son, like give it to me. I'm going to go do it on my own.
That's great.
But I think like the victory and the conquering we see in Christ, it includes those hard things, but it's in this relationship, and it still remains as a son and an heir, and and it's ultimately expressed in the conquering, if you will, of his own will, of laying down my own will, so that I can lay down my life for others, right? And that's the end. And this is gonna be super random again, but I think it makes sense. I was thinking about it at the local servants things. There's a thing on joy. And if you guys remember, I don't know if you were all there, there's a throwback to the whole joke about like me not having a wrinkly forehead because I have Botox to the heart. I don't feel emotions that strongly. I'm working on it, at least expressively. And a number of guys made jokes in the midst of the joy talks, which confirmed that it is a reality. But it just kind of got me thinking, particularly like, I think one of these, like, I don't know if it's like conquering aging or it's something probably different, but like with women, there's this crazy movement of like, this whole, like, I don't like this whole Botox thing, like when you're like 20, so like you never get wrinkles. And I'm just thinking about like, what if we like saw wrinkles as like, this is somebody who has lived life and felt deeply, right? They've expressed themselves so much with entering into people's sadness or experiencing people's joy, that like they've lived life so deeply that it's left as like this, it's expressed now externally with this kind of this change of their face, of they've kind of grown, and like with a mother's or father's heart as well. And just like with this whole reference to Our Lady as the paradigm, it's sort of the marker, the model of femininity, like 100%, like Our Lady, I really think, she had a very wrinkly face. You know what I mean?
It's beautiful.
And so many of the images, they're all sort of like airbrushed. It's all sort of very clean. But like Our Lady would have been the one who felt, who lived all of this, the receptivity, sensitivity, generosity, maternity, like so deeply. She would have again and again and again made people's joys her joy, made people's sorrow her sorrow. And this is going to be expressed like externally. And so I think we just want to, again, like make that movement to just really looking at Our Lady and allowing her to show us like what authentic beauty is, what a healthy approach to sort of aging and all that sort of stuff. I think it is super important.
Go ahead. I was
No,
going
I'm
to
just
say
gonna
something
end
about.
this. Sorry.
Okay. I'm going to say something about mom. So I just had this experience the other day. I was sitting in the chapel, and so on the side of Our Lady Angels, there's a huge image of Our Lady Guadalupe. I don't know how big she is, 4 stories. But she's huge. And we're currently having a restoration.
I saw that.
See that right there? Restoration.
Yeah, I definitely
like that.
saw that.
And so I'm sitting in the chapel before Holy Hour, and I hear somebody outside, "She's so beautiful." Because it's in the middle of her being repainted. And so anyway, if you know the image of Our Lady Guadalupe, it's the corona around, like, so the sun is painted and that her mantle's painted too. And the artist was just starting on her face. And so she's still, a lot of it's unfinished, but I just thought to myself, she's always beautiful, and she was always beautiful. And I think a beautiful thing is that, like, especially for women, just sometimes in life, because the reason she needed to be restored was because she was sunbeaten and weathered over time. And sometimes that can happen in life with its, like, once again, as you're talking about, like, through wounds, and you just feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm beaten up. And I think in a beautiful way, the Father like does this restoration work of just painting us anew and using colors that were already present, but drawing them out in a deeper way, in a more beautiful way. And I think once again, if we live, or if ladies live femininity in a beautiful way, specifically in the heart of Our Lady, which is encased in the heart of her Son towards the Father, people can see this beauty that's present because she's receptive. And this image of Our Lady Guadalupe is receptive to the pain, you know, and she is a mother to the people in the neighborhood, beautifully, people walking by, even amidst the painting. I just hear them say, "Don't mess her up," you know, or like I see this one guy who lives in an apartment building across, like he's constantly like making the sign of cross as a candle by his window. And so she's a mother. And once again, this is all gift that she freely gives. And so just to offer that as an image, especially for specifically the feminine genius, but just to know that that's, you know, a part of the Son's heart for you, but more than that, just that you are beautiful, and the Father just wants to restore this image in a way that is even better than you can imagine and have dreamt, you know.
Yeah,
so
beautiful. Brother, so like I just want to keep it before everybody that the whole point of this journey is to the Father in Jesus and Our Lady want to restore our hearts as sons and daughters. Like the restoration is for our sonship and being sons and daughters. And a part of this is the restoration of our masculinity and femininity. And so I just appreciate like just what does it mean to have a masculine heart and a feminine heart, and to live from that and to not be afraid of our hearts there. Right. And so I'm just grateful that we could have it's in that context that we're driving towards restoration of being sons and daughters of the Father because it's the identity at our deepest core. We didn't really know how these episodes, there's so many things to talk about. So I appreciate it. We made time just in this context, but just invite people to notice the different ways that we go through in the consecration, that we talk about magnanimity and generosity. We talk about chastity, and we talk about the difficulties of the attacks against our masculinity and femininity, like pride and control and lust. But the whole point is that we can be to live in the freedom and peace of the sons and daughters of the Father, right? So you're just going to notice that journey as we go through. So obviously in these episodes, we can't talk about everything in full. I do want to just invite people again. If you're getting on the train here, we're a couple weeks in, but it is going to be a 40-day consecration. So you're very welcome. Just kind of jump in. If you want to go to the website, it's kofc.org/POCO. And that's going to have like all these episodes and have ways that you can get other things. But if you would like to go to the Knights of Columbus website in this context, it's kfc.org/sons. And there is weekly videos available from Father Angelus and I. There is the bilingual version. So there's a Spanish version with Father Agustino and Omar and Luis from the Knights of Columbus. So that's awesome. And then also you can order a hard copy of the book still, that they're available at kfc.org/sons, and you can get all that there.
That's a very strong CTA, like a pro. That was nice.
I learned from you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be very
pro.
clear,
Like
a pro.
Wow. The student has become the master. Anyway, I feel like Yoda says something. Is that all for us for today?
Can I give a shout out?
Yeah. Do we want to do it after the
prayer?
Like we
usually
normally
do a prayer.
Oh, I thought that was all like you were like done. Sorry.
We usually pray.
We will pray. Won't you pray, Father?
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you and praise you for the gift of our lives, to be your sons and daughters. We hold before you our hearts. And we just ask for restoration in our masculinity and femininity, that we could be fully open and just receive the grace, everything that Jesus wants to give us this day, to restore our hearts. We just pray for that grace of receptivity. We ask this all through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
Now I can give my.
Now you can give your.
I just want to say hey to my friends Pat and Kenna. They work at the Martin's Center for Integration, which is cool. I was just with them last month when I was in Minnesota. It was on their podcast. They have a podcast called The Whole Life, and it's beautiful. They have it's a center for healing and counseling and different things there. So just awesome. They're a beautiful couple. They have a beautiful family. They listen to the podcast every week, and we just had a lot of joy and fun talking about healing and growth. And so anyway, just grateful to them and. Thank you. They sent us all 4 one of these thermoses, so you can take yours as well.
Thank you.
I want to shout out in Encounter Boston. Yes, one of the Bostons asked us to shout. Hayden wanted us to shout out Encounter Boston. All his friends there. Thanks for listening. God bless you guys.
He said something about mousetraps.
Oh, he said something about mousetraps that I didn't quite get. Oh, Father Mark Perry.
We were walking about mousetraps.
We were walking up the stairs. I have an image. Mousetraps. Oh, hey, thank you to our friend Kathy. Kathy listens to the podcast. She went to Greece and she brought us back some fun stuff and a mug, or a couple of mugs we got over there, and a bag for Dolores.
Oh, gosh, it's awesome.
She said, I don't know how you say that, Mykonos would be a great place for the cruise.
Someone talked about the cruise to me recently as well.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
The cruise that will never cruise. And we hope to see you at Seek. If you want to go to Seek, seek.focus.org if they don't change it because of Father Angelus's unimpressed face. Anything?
Alana. Shout out to Alana.
Great.
Hi. That's all.
Sweet.
All right. See ya.
Peace.
Poco a poco vamos a llegar. Somos peregrinos and you know that's who we are. We make our way. Hey, hey. Little by little we learn a little more each day that God is love, that life is short, that all will be well. And I know